Hello girls, I was feeling inspired today to do a little bit of a machine embroidery video for y'all. I want to start a series here on YouTube all about machine embroidery for beginners, and I wanted to just sit down today and cover the basics of what you need to get started. I feel like what to order and what's worth spending your money on is kind of one of the hardest parts of getting started. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're new here, my name is Emily and I share a ton on my TikTok, which is where predominantly I create content about machine embroidery. I do it for fun. I also have a small business that I run for bespoke embroidery projects. I do monthly drops and it's just mainly for fun. I just think it's fun and creative and just so sweet to be able to give personalized gifts. I really got an embroidery machine in the first place so I could gift things that are personalized to my friends who are having babies, and then now I'm gonna have a baby next year, and so I'm very into the whole embroidery process just for fun as much as I am for the business side of things. But whatever the reason might be that you're getting into it, I feel like this time of the year so many people want to start embroidering for the holidays. First, you need to have the right materials. So I thought we could do a little embroidery series here on YouTube and talk about just the basics, everything you need. I want to pull out my old machine and show you guys some basics on that and just do more in-depth education here on YouTube. I do a lot of tutorials and things on my TikTok, but I can get so much more in-depth in a YouTube video. So I usually post vlogs and stuff. So feel free to subscribe if you're into that. Home, hobbies, lifestyle, that kind of thing, pregnancy, etc. But also embroidery. So here's my TikTok, and then obviously I'm going to do an embroidery series here. So let's get into what you need to get started with machine embroidery. Before we get into my list of essentials to get started with machine embroidery, I did want to say if you already have a machine, you're kind of watching this to see what you might need, or you're just trying to learn embroidery in general and you're trying to figure out how to use embroidery software such as Embrilliance, that is the next hardest thing to learn besides threading your machine and the basics of actually setting things up is how do you get fonts and designs organized? How do you resize them? How do you actually get stuff designs, the beautiful things you see online? How do you get that onto your machine? So I just finished recording a course because I get so many questions on TikTok about this, about how to use Embrilliance Essentials, which if you don't know, that's the first paid tier of the, I would say leading embroidery digitizing software among at home machine embroidery people. I will put the curriculum here if you're trying to learn how to use that software and again, get designs onto your machine, figure out how to resize your hoop, resize your designs, actually start to embroider. You need to know how to use this software. That will be linked down below. It has all the educational modules, a bunch of design with me modules of me actually buying fonts and then bringing them over into Embrilliance and then resizing them and doing custom monograms, that kind of thing. So if y'all want the details on how to actually start designing your own stuff and getting fonts organized and then getting that on your machine, I have a little course on how to do that. I will link it. So many of the girlies on my TikTok have bought it and loved it. So I hope y'all will find that helpful as well. I have an Amazon storefront that people love. Everything I mentioned today will be linked to the specific versions of stuff. So y'all make sure and check that out if you're curious about something. I will have it linked. But the first thing, obviously, that you need is your machine. I have 3 machines I want to talk about today. Number 1 is what I think is the best beginner machine and what I started on. That is the Brother SE700. I have a package, kind of a starter pack that I recommend that they have on Amazon. And it has hoops and threads and a bunch of different stuff that you kind of can use to get started. And it's a really reasonable price. But the thing about picking a machine really comes down to how big do you want the hoop size to be? How big do you want the stitching area to be? And then also, which nobody talks about, is how powerful do you want the machine to be? I had the Brother SE700, learned to stitch on that, started my business on that, and then I upgraded to my machine now, the Brother NQ1700E. So it's a couple steps up. The main reason I upgraded is I wanted faster stitch times and more stitching power. So a lot to look into. If you're looking at it in tiers, I would start your most affordable option that's totally good enough to get started is the Brother SE700. Then up from there is your Brother PE900, and that's going to be a bigger hoop size, more powerful. But if you're going to spend that kind of money, I would go ahead and potentially just wait to upgrade to the NQ1700E, because the stitching power of this machine that I have is the most like of those three. And I find that like the sturdiness and steadiness of the stitch and how fast it works like is so beneficial. So I'll put the actual differences in like power and stitch time on the screen, but I have all three machines linked. I've bought all my machines on Amazon, had great experiences. I still have my Brother SE700 and it's great for small projects. It's also a sewing machine. So a lot of people like that component of things. But I personally am not planning on using my machine for traditional sewing. So I'm fine to just have an embroidery only machine. But those are your kind of options and decisions you need to make. How fast do you want stitch times to be? Do you want the sewing capability? Do you care about hoop size? Or are you going to mostly do like small personal projects? And what is your budget? So I'll have all three machines linked. The next thing that you need is thread. I have a specific pack of thread that I love that came with all the colors I have behind me, and I've just slowly replaced the ones I use the most. So I've currently restocked black, navy, and this beautiful cornflower blue that I use on a lot of wreath sashes and baby boy clothes. But this like color combo of thread and this package pretty much has everything you need to get started, and you need the organizer. I did not have this for the longest time and I don't know what I was doing. I don't know how I ever saw what I had. It was just like all in a box. It was getting tangled. The organizer on the wall is chef's kiss. Stick with me here because I know a lot of this can sound intimidating when you don't know how to use your machine yet. But there's something called a bobbin that you have to use. It's like the thread that goes underneath your design. And a lot of people will have you thinking you need to like self-wind that on your machine. The machines all have like bobbin winding capabilities. Do not do that. In my opinion, it's a huge opportunity to mess up. I would spend the $20 and buy the huge pack of like 150 pre-wound bobbins. It's exactly what I use. I never have an issue, but people who wind their own bobbins do have issues a lot. So thread, bobbins, and an organizer are a must. And then you need stabilizers. So I can do a whole video on like stabilizers and the differences there, but really you're looking at 2 to, I'll say 3 actually different kinds you need to start out. Tearaway stabilizer, cutaway stabilizer, and water soluble stabilizer. In summary, water soluble stabilizer goes over like high loft design. So if you're sewing on a towel, that goes on top to make sure your stitches don't like sink into your material. Tearaway stabilizer, you pretty much use for everything except for stuff you're going to wear. They say if you wear it, don't tear it. If it's going to go through the washing machine a lot, have a lot of heavy use, you use cutaway stabilizer. I have pre-cut versions of cutaway and tearaway that I'm obsessed with that I've used on so many projects, linked as well as my roll of water soluble stabilizer. As a beginner, you pretty much just need those 3 things and you should be good to go. Another must is basting spray. So something that I can show in a future tutorial. It's all over my TikTok. If you're curious about something I say, like it's all on TikTok. But basting spray is like a sticky adhesive that you can use to float your designs rather than hooping in your actual blanks into the hoop of your machine, which can be really hard, especially for bulkier designs or blanks. You can just float those designs and use a basting adhesive to like stick the layers together. It makes more sense when you see it in action, but trust me, pretty much anything you do in embroidery, it requires a high level of stabilization. Like if you're using multiple layers of stabilizer or you're attaching a blank to your stabilizer, whatever, you need it to be like stuck together physically by something sticky. And that's going to be your basting spray. So I have a really good version of that linked as well. And then I feel like you need a few blanks to get started. And the things I think are the easiest to learn on are napkins. Cocktail napkins are so easy. And this specific pack I have linked is so good. Like they don't warp or like pull. They look really great on the bar. We've used them and they rinse off great. They're just really good and inexpensive to practice on. And if you're trying to like learn to embroider, but you want to do some easy gifts, cocktail napkins are amazing. In this pack, again, I've ordered it so many times. I do it as gifts. I have seasonal ones for my bar at home. They're the best. They're so easy. Dinner napkins also are a good option. They're great for just practice, but you can do a whole like beautiful table setting with like customized embroidered dinner napkins. And again, they're very sturdy. They're not like a delicate material that's going to pull. They both work great with just a tearaway stabilizer and they're very inexpensive. So if you mess up, it's okay. And again, if you want to do like an easy gift for somebody, but you're like afraid you might have to throw a few away, you're getting used to threading your machine, like those 2 napkin options are great. I feel like a wreath sash is a very common like first embroidery project. And I personally love this pack from Amazon. I will say when you do a satin material, these look amazing on the door. They're very reflective. They stand out nice and bright. When you're stitching, you got to make sure you really stabilize them, but water soluble on top, 2 layers of tearaway underneath, and really making sure you are stabilizing everything with basting spray generally does the trick. And like I said, they look so good. They make the perfect gift, and they're very inexpensive to practice on. If you're looking for a gift to get like guys, you want to embroider for the guys in your life, a set of cocktail napkins is great if they're into like whiskey or beer or anything. But these golf towels are a huge hit. My brother-in-law and my dad, I made these for them and they were so happy. These are so inexpensive. They stitch out great and they're just great. Like if you're looking for, again, something to gift the men in your life off your embroidery machine, if you're going to have an embroidery Christmas, highly recommend. I have a few other blanks that I really enjoy using. These pouches are a huge hit. I've sold them. They're easy to embroider on. They're kind of like another little project to learn a new skill of like how to hoop something in that's a weird shape and that has multiple layers, but they're pretty easy and I have tutorials on how to do them on my TikTok. There's a seersucker one, a waffle weave, and I love all of them. They're very chic on the counter. I travel with them. They're in my bags and my purses. I actually have one right here as my camera bag and it's got like a butter yellow little embroidery on it and I love it. There are so many things you can buy when you're starting embroidery, different kinds of hoops and things, and you guys can go to my Amazon storefront and just scroll through and see the things that might stand out to you more. But I really believe like if you can just purchase a machine, get some basic blanks and get your baseline materials, like if you bought the things I mentioned in today's video, you're good to go. You can just get started and then you can kind of order things and go from there. There are so many blanks you can use, so many different like colors of thread, so many different types of embroidery for like applique. You need like craft foam and different things. I have all that linked, but really when you're just getting started, you don't need a ton. And it is an expensive hobby to start, but if you use it for gift giving, I really do think it can save you money in the end and it can be something that is just so special. Like hobbies are sometimes expensive, but like they're so fun, like who cares? So those are the things I'd recommend. I really want y'all, because this is my first embroidery video on YouTube, to leave me some comments down below of like what you'd like to see. I really want to do some full tutorials and things like that. And again, if you are starting with machine embroidery and you're trying to figure out like how do you do designs and things like that, I have a mini course that I just created about how to use Embrilliance Essentials. If you know, you know, Embrilliance is like the leading embroidery software that people use, and it's very beginner friendly once you have somebody show you once how to do it. And so I was showing like my friends in person how to do it. And then I was like, I'm going to film a little course because I'm getting so many questions on TikTok about this. So anyways, that teaches you all the basics. I'll put the general curriculum one more time here on the screen. I will link that down below. And I have some full tutorials of like digitizing, like buying fonts and designs in there. So y'all check out the course for like actually digitizing and getting your first designs onto your machine. I'm going to be doing a course on like basics of using your machine soon. I want to feature a lot of that for free just here on YouTube, but there's a lot of like detail I'll be able to go into with like actually getting my camera angles set up and editing it into like very specific educational material with multiple modules. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, glad to have you here if you are in like the embroidery community, and anything y'all would like to see, again, let me know in the comments and I will get into making a little content list for my embroidery playlist.